Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Starkey Farmstead. Let me move that out of the back of my head. Look, guys, when you pop on, let me explain to you what's going on. Right now, I'm logging in to a Zoom call with Dave Hodges from the Common Sense Show. So I just wanted to let you guys know that he and I will be on a Zoom call right now, and I'm going to let you guys listen in. Leslie, who is our newspaper editor, is going to be moderating this live chat for you guys. So when you come on, hit the like button, drop in comments who you are, say hello to everyone. You guys feel free to ask questions, get involved in this live, because this is Dave Hodges with the Common Sense Show. Get all my paperwork together. So excited. I love doing Zooms with Dave Hodges, you guys. Wealth of knowledge there. Hello, Dave. How are you? Yeah, let me turn the volume up on my end. I can barely hear you. Let me see. There we go. There we go, Dave. Now I can hear
Is it
you.
better?
Yes. I just had to adjust on my end.
Well, we're definitely being messed with. I made the mistake yesterday of saying that I was going to be interviewing, and there's an update on Lahaina and what's going on in Maui. And I think that triggered what happened.
With the emails.
And I mistakenly said to you, it was a email they sent. It was a text that was sent to me, and they had your number.
Okay, so let me tell you what happened after that. That was very odd. I woke up this morning. There is an email sent from my email address back to me saying you have been hacked. And I didn't even finish reading it, Dave. I tried. It said it was my email address, but it was a little different. So I don't sure how they did it. I immediately blocked, deleted the email, and I rebuked it. I was like, God, I rebuke whoever or whatever this is. But that was so odd after I spoke to you and you were like, Sam, we're being messed with because people are trying to communicate and confuse this meeting from happening. And then to get that email this morning, I was like, come on, Jesus. You know, they do not want this topic discussed.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm going to reopen some of it and do some review. You probably didn't see this, but before I got kicked off YouTube, I had done an analysis, and this was, back in October. It was well over a month before I was kicked off. And I said, who is the major asset manager for all the players? And it was BlackRock.
Yes.
And and I did a whole thing on BlackRock, defense industry, BlackRock. World Economic Forum, 6 corporations fund it, but BlackRock's their major asset manager in every case. Either BlackRock or Vanguard, same thing.
Right.
So that's, I'm on their radar. There's no question about that. But I do agree they don't want this out here. The lithium thing, I haven't been able to confirm it, but it matches Afghanistan and why we withdrew. Left $85 billion of military equipment, but Chinese unfettered access to lithium, which is a rare earth mineral used in weaponry. So, this what you're telling me fits into what I already know to be true.
Right. Right.
So, no trouble believing that.
It's just shocking. The pushback that we've had with this trip. So when we went in September in 2023, obviously it was based on just seeing if kids have been taken. Going back October 2023, it was more of working with the nonprofits that I had been networking with, passing out money, speaking at a budget meeting where Mayor Bisson was present, getting to meet the princess, stuff like that. This trip was a personal invitation from the next legal king of Hawaii. And I'm going to mispronounce his name. The first name I'm not even going to try, but the last name is Inui, Nui, or Nui, I think is how they pronounce it. And he would be the next legitimate king of Hawaii if they ever get their sovereignty back. And so that's what this trip is. It's going to focus on going to give him a platform to speak, and then also to pass out cash to the fire victims.
Yeah, it's not going to end, and we need to keep the heat on because they're running scared. I think they wanted to expedite this. You remember the day after the fire, Bezos came and said, "Hey, I'll rebuild Lahaina into a smart city. I need $100 million."
Yes.
And I think they wanted to go right away, but I think the stuff that we did has really slowed them down.
Yeah.
They had a major issue with that. Okay. What's our starting point? Where do you want to jump in at on this to start?
I think maybe if I could start with the hush money stuff I was talking to you about, and just kind of let people understand the depth of the cover up going on here. So we could start with the Josh Green, the Governor Green, coming out November of 2023 saying, "Hey, we've started the One Ohana Fund." I've got all that printed, the actual document sitting in front of me. So I thought we could, explain to people who the contributors to the fund happen to be and why this would legally be a hush money fund. And then we could just kind of go from there, go revisit the kids, the missing kids, and then maybe jump into the problems that all these nonprofits are having opening up the housing that they have put millions of dollars into for the fire victims.
Okay. I know how to introduce this now. Yeah, let me note the time here before we jump in. And okay, and I got a brief live read I've got to do in the beginning, and it'll be brief.
Sure, okay. Sure. Take your time.
3, 2, 1.
Recording in progress.
Hey everybody, Dave Hodges here, host of the Common Sense Show. We are the show that is freeing America one enslaved mind at a time. And we're going to be doing an interview here in a minute with Samantha Starkey. And we tried to do this earlier and we got interfered with. I got a fake message from her. It was fake. Can we move this back an hour, Dave? And it caused us to miss the interview. And then she got notification that you've been hacked. And obviously, I know I could testify she did get hacked. But this is just part of the ongoing harassment that I've been experiencing, particularly when Doug Thornton and I do the Doug and Dave Intel report. We get messed with quite a bit. We just kind of gloss over it, move on, cut it out of our production, and then post it without the interference. But we get interfered with a lot. So we're bringing this interview, and it's on something they don't want you to know about. It's on the Lahaina crisis and what's happening. And Samantha's right at the forefront of it. She's planning a return visit that's meeting with great opposition. And the people want her there. The government doesn't want anything to do with her. And I'm hoping she's taking proper safeguards. But before we go there and unravel this latest set of developments regarding one of the biggest mass murders in American history, and that's me saying it, because that's what I have concluded. Before we do that, I let you know that we're brought to you by Noble Gold. In fact, we're coming to you from the Noble Gold Studios. And Noble Gold has given me peace of mind. I've been advertising for 7 years. I've been a customer for over 6. And what I can tell you is I am positioned not to take a total dive, a 1929 moment when this economy crashes. 78 banks are near failure. That's Jerome Powell, the Federal Reserve, saying it, not Dave Hodges. And at 78 is just the tip of the iceberg. And under the Dodd-Frank Law 2010, they can keep your money because you have been unconstitutionally declared to be, well, you're basically an unsecured creditor, which means you have no rights over your money or your retirement. Well, Noble Gold can fix both those problems. Now, I need to step aside and say this. Unlike Sam Bankman-Fried and the FTX scandal, we come out and we say anytime you do an investment of any type, doesn't matter what it is, there's an inherent risk. and past performance can't be construed with future expectations. We have integrity. Some don't. So we fulfilled our requirement, but I'll say this, there's a reason why I've been a customer for 6 years. And so what I'm telling you right now is let Noble Gold get you through the coming crisis where you'll come out the other side with most of your assets intact. All of us are going to take hits, but you don't have to have a catastrophic hit. So how do you negotiate this? I'm going to give you an easy to remember website that has the number for Noble Gold, but it also has information and no one's going to bug you. You have to close your own deal when you talk to them. So go to davehodgesgold.com, davehodgesgold.com, and you'll see everything you need to know there. And you'll also see, hey, when you work with them, they're going to give one of these quarter-ounce gold coins. It's fantastic, but it's just a way of saying thank you. davehodgesgold.com. Well, Samantha Starkey, I think, has been at the forefront of certainly mainland coverage of the mass murder, and this is what I'm going to continue to call it, the mass murder of Hawaiian citizens in the town of Lahaina because they wouldn't give up their land after years of wrangling with developers trying to force them off their land. So they found a way to get them off their land. And we have seen Eric West and all these people show dramatic videos of bright angle turns of directed energy weapons and the destruction they did, how they purposely avoided the wealthy homes and they got spared, and the common people, they got burned out, blocked exits, no sirens, police not letting them escape, having to jump in the ocean and waiting 5 hours, 6 hours for rescue to escape the fires. I'm just refreshing your memory. Samantha, sorry about the long intro, but I wanted to bring the audience up to date because we have had, I covered this well into October. So we have had now about 7-8 months of the public's kind of redirected attention. But we're going to start with hush money. Oh, no, not Donald Trump in Manhattan. By the way, I have a major update on the Rumble channel on my website about that. You want to check that out. But after this presentation, Samantha has discovered the payment of hush money for people to give up their rights for how they were burned out of their homes. Samantha, I'll just turn it over to you and let you run with it.
Well, Dave, I appreciate you giving us a larger platform to speak to. I tell a lot of my good friends and a lot of my subscribers that have been around for a while that you're just a great resource of knowledge. You make yourself available to me. I can text you, I can call you, I can bounce ideas, and you just kind of act as like a spiritual and a government father, so to speak, in a good way, helping me navigate because I am young in the game of going on social media and stuff. What I realized, you guys, I would have never associated Governor Green's One Ohana Fund with hush money until I saw what they did with Donald Trump. And then I did a little digging and I'm like, what is actually the definition of hush money? And I realized it's a payment and or payments to either stop information from coming out against a company, a government, or an individual that could hurt that person or make them look bad. So I'm like, okay, well, in November of 2023, Governor Green got together with some big players, some big contributors, Hawaiian Electric, the state of Hawaii, a nonprofit school board owned by the Catholic bishops on Maui, Maui County, Charter Spectrum, Hawaiian Telecom, and West Maui Land Company came together. And they said, look, we're all going to put in millions of dollars and we're going to create the One Ohana Fund. And as of today, that fund carries 175 million United States dollars. And the interesting thing is that every one of those contributors to the fund are listed as defendants in a mass lawsuit for what happened in Lahaina. And so when I realized that, I was like, well, wait a second. The same people, Hawaiian Electric put up 75 million. Peter Martin with the West Maui Land Company put up 2.5 million. Spectrum put up 2.5. The state of Hawaii put up 65 million. The Maui County put up 10 million. They put it all in one fund and they said, look, we understand that you've been through a lot. and that you may have lost loved ones, or you might have had physical or mental damage due to this fire. So we're going to offer you money, a one-time payment. You don't have to go to court. You don't have to prove that anyone hurt you. We're going to put the money together. The Hawaiian Bank, the First Bank of Hawaii, said that, oh, look, we'll pro bono all the financial services. You can deposit the One Ohana Fund here, and we'll play a key role in facilitating the fund's operations by offering and providing infrastructure support, including office space and administrative assistance for the judge, who is, I think it's pronounced Ibarra, who is going to be over the fund. We'll even provide you the attorneys. You don't have to do anything, folks. Just apply. And I'm like, wow, that's really nice. And you can get anywhere from $1.5 million to $1 million if you lost a loved one, and anywhere from $1 million down if you had bodily or mental damage due to the fires. So it sounds too good to be true. Then, as I kept digging into the Maui fires, I realized about 4 or 5 months ago, a large lawsuit came out listing Hawaiian Electric Company, the state of Hawaii, the schools, the Bishop schools, Maui County, Charter Spectrum, Hawaiian Telecom, and West Maui Land Company as all defendants in a lawsuit saying, you made this fire worse than it had to be. All of you dropped the ball. You didn't sound the sirens. Not only did the police send people back into the fire, because there's only 2 egresses out of Lahaina. They were both blocked, sending all those innocent people back into the inferno. But there were gates leading on public roads that had go across private land that had been blocked, locked, and guards stationed at them all around Lahaina. And that land was owned by the Bishop Schools, West Maui Land Company, and Maui County. And the government knew those gates were there. But during the fire, they were locked, and there were people at those gates sending those people back, refusing to allow them to cross on a public road through private land to get away from the inferno. So if you
in cars and crash down the gate, but anyway, go ahead.
Right. And the thing is, at this point, is if you accept the One Ohana Fund, if you accept that money, you cannot testify in court, Dave, for anybody else's case. You can't give first person testimony. You can't provide evidence. And the other day, the reason I found out about this was because Governor Green was, extending through July the application process because not enough people had applied. So far, only 20 people who lost loved ones has applied for this fund, and only 17 who had injuries. So 37 people out of some words of like 6,000 affected by the fires have actually signed up for the One Ohana Hush Fund.
What do you account for that gap? Just public awareness of the corruption?
I think it's public awareness to the corruption. I think it is also the fact that people may not know about it. They did not do a lot of awareness to this. And my question is, what's going to happen with the $175 million if it's not all dispersed? Right?
I was going to ask that. Is there a sunset date on this recovery?
Exactly. So, Josh Green, it's all, I don't even know how to say it. I'm not even going to worry about saying it nicely. They're working together to shut up as many people as possible.
I would agree with that. I've taken some notes here. I'd like to go over them with you and get your response to what I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
And if people in Hawaii haven't considered this, they should. I did extensive research on BlackRock's non-participatory involvement in this as being the major asset manager. They and Vanguard and State Street, they're all three all blended together. And I'm not going to go through the details on how that happens. I've done videos on that before. But let me tell you what I have here. You got Hawaii Bank, major asset manager are these BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street. You've got Maui City, they're involved in the cover-up and proven to be. They came out, the Maui officials came out and said, we didn't sound the sirens because people would have run uphill into the fire and got burned up.
I remember that.
And actually, state law says that the siren should be sounded for any natural disaster. So they lied about that. Okay. Hawaii Electric, major asset manager, BlackRock. The Jesuits are involved. You just mentioned about the, I forget what you called them, but basically Catholic reference. They're
the
Jesuits.
bishops.
The bishops, thank you. And it's hard to find a scandal today, including open border transportation with donations to NGOs to transport illegal aliens and terrorists into America. And the Jesuits are involved. They're involved in this as well. And I haven't established a link yet between Jesuits and BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, but I will, and I know it probably exists. You've got the state of Hawaii involved in the cover-up. And I'm going to lay all this out and I'll let you respond to it. Josh Green, when he first got into office, met with the United Nations and said, we're going to become 15-minute cities and so forth and so on. And then he had a follow-up meeting with the UN 2 weeks before the disaster. And then the state of Hawaii, through Josh Green, they declared Lahaina to be an historical preserved site unless there's a natural disaster. Isn't that coincidental?
Right.
And then, let's see, what else did you list here? Okay. I want to state this. This is my view. It doesn't have to be your expressed view. So I'm responsible for making this statement. You block the exits, don't sound the sirens, make people jump in the ocean to avoid being burned up. And the handicapped never had a chance to get out.
No.
Neither did the elderly. But here's the deal, Samantha. If you kill enough people, you limit your costs of reimbursement, which is exactly why they choked Lahaina into being burned with no escape. That's Dave Hodges' statement, not Samantha Starkey. I'm standing on that. I said that last year, and I stand by it now. Okay, you want to respond to some of those things I brought up?
I do. I did want to make this point too, Dave. The discrepancy in how many people perished. If you go to the state or the federal government, the number is either going to be 100 or 101. In the lawsuit being brought against Maui County, Hawaii, all those people I listed earlier that we talked about that are involved in the hush money fund, there is 115 people listed as deceased in that lawsuit. So my question has always been, who are the 14? Who are these people? Are they children? Are they some of the children that we still can't locate? Because that 14 is a lot, folks. That's 14 too many. And I don't think anybody can argue with that. But I do agree with you that this was an intent to destroy as much property as possible with as much damage as possible to make it seem hopeless, to give them a reason to remove people, not just for a few months. Look, guys, I live in Southeast Louisiana. I have lived through Hurricane Katrina. I have lived through the 100 Great Flood that flooded areas of Louisiana that have never flooded in all of its history that we know of. And I have seen my communities, and this is like the poorest state in the union. I have seen us rebuild in months. I've seen them take it down, clean it, and rebuild homes, schools, banks, you name it, hospitals. We were back up and running within a year. You would have never known those disasters had happened. And I'm looking at Lahaina, and there's still people that haven't been to their property. Are you kidding me? Is this a third world country?
Are they still being blocked?
Yes, you have to have permits. You cannot walk around Lahaina. It is one of the reasons that when I go back in August, I will be there from the 1st to the 12th. And I will go put myself in front of the armed military and video myself live so the whole world can see that 1 year later, they still will not let public or private people in there without permission.
Well, the cover-up was in effect. And let me say this, and I know you know this. During the cover-up part, Eric West actually got cited and arrested for stopping at the side of the road. Just stopping.
Yes.
I don't know. God knows what happened if your car broke down and you were unable to move, but they came and arrested him for that. But here's what they did inside. And we know this because there were news reports from Hawaii News Now on this. So they can't hide it any longer. They brought in blue drums, and they put the topsoil in these 50-gallon blue drums.
Yes.
And then transported them to a place where you had firearms practice that they closed down to store this. And they said then they were going to send this toxic soil to an undisclosed location in the mainland United States.
Yes.
So that was the news. That was the news saying the mainstream media. Now, why would you take the topsoil off of that? Because directed energy weapons carries a radiation signature that can be identified. Sam and Samantha, that's why they did this.
Yes, yes. And I think I had mentioned it to you before. I was invited. Somebody had networked me in with some EPA. That look, God works miracles, folks. Because I have a master's in education, but my credentials did not necessarily put me in the Zooms that I was participating in because I had never worked for the government, the federal government. These people are from like the University of Hawaii, EPA, all these different environmental groups. And I was just there representing the people. That's what I always felt like I was doing. And I listened to them discuss the first soil test that had come back and how the soil was toxic. And here recently, I showed my subscribers a video from the Hawaiian News Channel that was discussing the fruit. So the majority of trees are gone in Lahaina. And what they're seeing is that the natural wells, the natural underground water wells are returning because people aren't pumping the water out, the fresh water. They're seeing the swamp that Lahaina naturally was coming back into play. But the fruiting trees that are left, Dave, are toxic. The birds won't eat it. None of the wild animals will touch the fruit when it falls from the trees. And he said that is a very bad sign. From an environmental standpoint, that's a very, very bad sign. And they were saying for the next 3 to 5 years, do not eat any food grown in those areas. A normal fire, even with some of the toxins that you would get from lead paint and that kind of stuff, would remediate itself within 18 months to 2 years, and the soil would actually become healthier because the fire would have stimulated bacterial and fungi growth, and the earthworms would come in and the beetles would come in and they would eat the decomposing stuff and they would process it and they would clean it because that's what earthworms do. They can remove heavy metals and toxins. Well, I mentioned that and they're like, not in this case because the lithium, the arsenic, and they blamed the arsenic on all the plantations, the sugar, the pineapple plantations that had surrounded Lahaina for so long. They blamed the lead on lead paint, and they blamed the lithium on all of the smart vehicles and solar panels that had burned during the fire. And that's the only ones they mentioned. And I'm sitting there thinking there should be so many more chemicals present after a major fire like this, but somehow only those are the ones, it's just a cover up. How can you have a panel of people trying to figure out how to clean the soil for Lahaina in Maui, but you won't actually tell us what's in the soil? Like how can we give you an educated?
Block it off so people can't even watch what they're doing. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. I'm like, how am I supposed to help you guys? Yes, this is what I do. This is who I am. I am an agricultural specialist. Regenerative ag is what I do. I'm all about the soil health. Everything I do is to regenerate healthy soil because I'm a firm believer that food is medicine. And what we eat directly affects our behavior and our bodies. But unfortunately for Lahaina, there is now a warning. Do not grow food there and do not eat food there that will be grown for the next 3 to 5 years. The soil is toxic. And that's not from a normal fire.
They had to know the effects. I'll go back to the statement I made earlier that Green had that proclamation, historical preserve site unless there's a natural disaster. Well, this was the planned unnatural disaster, and it had long-term effects, so you can't come back and repopulate because they have the land there for other purposes. I wanted to mention one other thing. Eric West really exposed this in his heroic work where he lost his job for reporting this. But there would be cars on the side of the road burned out at temperatures that would have to exceed 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit to melt the metal alloys in some of the component parts of the car. And yet, natural fire burns at just over 2,000 degrees. There was a 1,000-degree discrepancy between the fire done damage to cars. And what's really interesting is the cars would be burned out, but there'd be like right-angle turns where expensive homes on burn marks were avoided.
Yes.
And those pictures are public. You know, I have published those photos on my website. So the fire temperatures was another aspect of this. Are you of the opinion like I am, it was absolutely directed energy weapons?
I am now. Yes, sir. I remember when you and I first spoke, it was before my second trip back in October. We were connected September to October. And I was able to talk to you. And I remember then I was a fence sitter because I'm like, when I put that I believe something, I want there to be enough evidence that if I had to go to court, there would be either physical or circumstantial evidence to such a degree that I, without a doubt, could say guilty or not guilty, right? And I was always like, the people on Maui, they go both ways. There's 50% of them are like, they tried to kill us. The other 50% are like, oh, it's just a wildfire, But over time, as I kept digging, it was more of the fact of the way that the government is refusing to allow people back, intentionally blocking homes being tiny homes, gifted homes from Hungary, the country of Hungary, sent tiny homes for free. The blocking of all that, the sinister feel to a government that won't waive rebuilding permits, that won't allow people to walk down the road that they lived on because it was burned, made me believe that there was enough evidence to say without a doubt it was a directed energy weapon, without a doubt.
Yeah, someone walking down the road could just scoop up a little dirt, take it out, have it analyzed, and that's why they're doing what they're doing. I've talked with Paul Preston extensively about this, the president of the New California Movement, Agenda 21 radio show, the top digital radio show in America. And Paul, when I started giving Paul the evidence that I was gathering from Maui, he said, Dave, this is paradise all over again, Paradise, California.
Yeah.
And he started to link the two events together. And it was almost a one-for-one match in the characteristics of the fire. So they're using similar techniques to burn people out of areas they don't want them in. The one thing I'll say to this too, and I'll let you comment on this, and then I want to get back into what you're going to do on your trip. But if they'll burn out Lahaina and they'll kill all these people, and we still haven't even touched on the missing children, we will. But if they'll do that to them, okay, what won't they do to you? When Donald Trump says, they're not really after me, they're after you, I'm just in the way, that might have been the most profound thing that Donald Trump has ever said. And I look at the Lahaina situation and the Paradise, California situation in the same light. What's your reaction to that?
I think they're connected. Like most people knew that California had burned, but it was in the news for a couple of days and then it was out, right? So I never really dug into it. I took it for face value. When I heard them say this is a wildfire on media, I took it at face value. And once people began to send me their personal pictures of their homes in California, and I'm in Maui looking at people's personal pictures of their homes, and I'm doing this, right? And then I'm looking at the evidence in Paradise, and I'm looking at the evidence in Lahaina, I realized that you couldn't have, they learned from their mistakes in California and they upped the game in Maui. That's what they did. And I wanted to tell you, Dave, are you aware that on June 7th, which was yesterday, Friday, in Honolulu, Governor Green, Mayor Bisson, and a couple of other big name Hawaiian officials got together with a committee of people from Cook Island, from Rarotonga, Cook Island, and signed a World Economic Forum's sister city agreement between Honolulu and Rarotonga.
Now, Green says this has nothing to do with 15-minute cities and all that stuff, sustainable development.
Exactly.
And then he goes and does this. I actually published, it's gone now because my YouTube account was taken away, but I published, they took it down after I published it off the state website, but they actually had sustainable developmental goals for Lahaina and a little bit in the Maui area extended from Lahaina. And as soon as I published that, I said, Green is lying.
Right.
And I said, here's the proof. And then they took it off their website on the state level. And then they go and pull this crap where they sign a sister city sustainable development.
Yes.
This is unbelievable.
When
I did not know that. No, I did not know that happened.
I would not have known it either, but I've got some very good friends and followers from Maui. And I got an email yesterday that said, just send me the link. They already know. They know I'm busy. They know. They just sent me the link. And it said, sister city signing with Honolulu and Rarotonga. And I went, are you kidding? A sister city. And in the speech, they actually say, the lieutenant governor actually says, we met with Biden at the White House in 2023, and he facilitated this. And I was like, wow, okay. So let's not even play like we're not connected to, the World Economic Forum. And I don't know if you heard this, but Robert Kennedy Jr. is now on the ballot for Hawaii for the presidential running. He is
that could defeat Biden, yeah.
Oh, I was so excited. And that's exactly what Biden's people are afraid of, is that they're going to vote for Kennedy because he's been to Maui so many times since the fire, and his soil and his regenerative practices, they're good. They're good. I'm going to give him that. The man knows environmental studies, and he really fought for the Hawaiian people in that sense. So now that he's on the ballot for the Democrats, that's where they're going to vote. So Biden is going to lose the electoral college that he's counting on for Hawaii. It's a done deal.
Yeah, it'll go to Trump because Kennedy will pull away Democratic votes.
Yeah.
There's no question. And what we're seeing across the country, Biden and Trump are in a dead heat in Virginia at 48% each in the polls, and that's held now for 2 months. I'm shocked at that. Virginia, Hawaii, I don't think will be any different. I want to get to something that was the most disturbing to me. If I have a hot button point in all the work I do, it's the child trafficking that our government's facilitating in various ways. And I'm talking Homeland Security and Mayorkas, the FBI that won't investigate, and then, of course, Biden and his open borders policy. But when I first covered this, I did the math of the 3 schools in the immediate area that were affected by the fire. I said, hell, they're missing 2,000 kids by their own figures.
Yes, we all saw that.
Then it was 600, and then it was 100, like you said. Okay, I don't care if it's one. Folks, we have over 100 missing kids from Lahaina. And where'd they go? Were they trafficked? Samantha, what do you think about that?
Okay, so my first trip, let me break it down, because a lot of people have tried to tell me that I didn't investigate well enough. Folks, you'd have to know me. Okay.
Who was? If you weren't, you did the best job of anybody. So then who was investigating good enough? It sure as hell wasn't the government.
No. So when I got there, the first thing that I did was establish I went to all the hubs for the fire victims. Now, this is September. This is less than 3.5 weeks post fire. So I'm there when FEMA's there. I'm there when the government's there. I mean, people are all over the island. I drove Maui, the complete island. I circled it twice. I went up in the mountains. I went to the beaches. I drove by where Oprah lived, where Zuckerberg lived, where Bezos lived. I went up and down the roads to determine if those roads were wide enough for a school bus, which they were, but they were not wide enough for a school bus with nobody to see it. A lot of people said, oh, they put the kids on buses, they moved them out. The problem with that theory is the Lahaina area, the deck where you could have gotten to boats and ships was burned completely. So there was no bringing kids out that way. The next place that would have been able to do that would be close to the airport. Too many eyes, middle of the day. So people said, well, they must have took them up towards Oprah's house on the mountain, or, Bezos down by the bay. So I went to both. And what I realized is that there were people walking every single day, people walking, people moving around, people out selling their goods, restaurants. There were, people on vacation everywhere all day long until the wee hours of the night. So you've got a fire that starts at like 8 o'clock in the morning. And, well, it was earlier than that, but it burns all day. And you would have had to get the kids out before 5 p.m. that evening on school buses on the only few roads that Maui had. There would have been eyewitnesses and people would have noticed. Plus, my indigenous friends pulled me aside and said, Sam, listen to me. If we believed that anyone had come onto this island and removed by force hundreds of our children, we would be at war. And what he told me was, unfortunately, the belief is that these children were burned. They burned. I do not think they took them in this instance. Now, I will tell you what I think could have happened. You've got kids in OCS and social services, an extremely high number. 68% of children in social services on the Hawaiian Islands are indigenous children to some degree, whether it's a mix, it's full, partial, they have Hawaiian blood in them. 68% of the kids in foster care are indigenous. How many of those children in that area where the burn was were with foster parents? They died in the fire that acts. You guys get it what I'm saying? Like, this was a planned event. If you look at it from that point of view, could we possibly have been missing 10, 20, 30 kids that should have been housed with people in that area? And those people just claimed that those children were deceased in the fire. Who would know? Where would you look for them?
There's another variable I want to throw out here for our discussion. I cover this extensively with really good documented video proof. The school buses were taken from the school bus lots from Lahaina, and they went south, I believe it was, and picked up residents from hotels. They evacuated on the buses to the airport.
Yes.
We know that transport happened. We have videos of the buses in transit.
Yes.
We have still photos of the bus parking lot showing them basically empty. But what's interesting here is when you went back and looked at the bus parking lots in the aftermath, they were missing some buses.
Mm-hmm. Now, I did find buses. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. When I left Maui in September, I was being dropped off at the airport, and I happened to look out my window, and there were school buses lined up, 4 of them, 1 short, 3 long, and I flipped out. I started screaming, oh my gosh, here's the school buses, because those buses never showed back up. They didn't ever make it back to the public school parking lot for the buses. There was exactly 3 long, 1 short bus consistently missing. They were at the airport. Now, do I think that you could have, in the craziness of what was going on, had children Not a lot. Now, folks, there's no way a couple hundred made it through that airport. You'd have to go to Maui and see what I'm talking about. It's extremely small, and it's people that work there are locals. They're not going to let you just take their kids. But if you had 5 or 6 kids in a group that are covered in smut, crying, and somebody's leaving with them, or you just slip them in with a family, getting on a plane, flying off. Yeah, I could see that happening. Oh, I could. Yeah.
There's another variable too involving the schools. In my old days as a high school teacher, I know all too well the protocols for dealing with emergencies with kids. You're trained on this. You do drills on this. You do a bus evacuation drills.
Yep.
They're mandatory. Every state requires it, and FEMA now requires it too.
Yes.
So here were an anomaly. The kids were released from school at the sign of trouble, well in advance of the fire. You don't release kids from school. You are responsible for in-site supervision.
Yes.
But by law, you can't even let them out of your sight. So you could put them on buses and take them home, but you'd have to notify the parents, and the parents would have to agree. They didn't do that. They just simply cut the kids loose. This is really criminal. This isn't just negligence. This is criminal negligence on the part of this administration. Who gave the orders? I tried to follow up with this with the school district, and they wouldn't answer any questions. I said, did the superintendent initiate this? I know you didn't have time to have a board meeting. So did the superintendent, was the principal of the school? Who was responsible? And they wouldn't answer my question. There's a cover up there involving the schools about the unauthorized and illegal release of these children from the schools.
Yeah. So in the fire reports, which there are actually 2, so it makes it really confusing to discuss the fire report findings with people because you've got 2 reports out there. But the one that the state commissioned, actually, it's hidden. It's hidden at the very back of 90-something pages is a little square. And in that square, it's like the bulletins that were sent out the morning of the fire and the evening before the fire. And it lists the closed school, like this school closed, this school closed. And then you notice that, and I forgot the name of it now because I don't have that document in front of my face. There was one school that was still open with 6th graders that went to school that day because it was 6th through 8th. So it was junior high. Those kids were still, they were sent to school, and then the fire popped off, and then they were sent home. So people like you and I from the very beginning that were saying there were school buses running with kids on them. What happened? And then people came back, and somehow social media and mainstream media started this rumor of there were no schools open. That's a lie. It's in the original fire report. That's
right. They lied. That's right. I forgot about that. The government lied about the schools being in session.
That's right. There was one school in session, and they had to shut it down before the day was over because of the fire. So what did they do with these kids? I mean, it wouldn't have been that many. It was just one of a couple of different schools. But it's just the confusion behind this and the intent behind it is so sinister. When I dig into this stuff, like, that the West Maui Land Company is owned by a gentleman named Peter Martin. His quote, Dave, when he heard about fires, he said, and I quote, "God was angry because you would not give me more water." Like they wouldn't refill his personal reservoir for his yuppie, elitist, globalist neighborhoods that he's building. Sorry, guys, my hair got my mouth. I apologize. But so Peter Martin owns West Maui Company. He owns a water company. He does a lot of neighborhood development. And recently he bought, right before the fires, of course, he bought a bunch of land that surrounds Lahaina that used to be a sugar plantation. And they're fixing to use eminent domain to take it from him. This was done. No, it was before the fire. The council aims to acquire 257 acres by eminent domain, but owners push back. That was in September of 2022. So when you say that they have been trying to take people's land in Maui for a long time, you're correct, Dave. They have been trying to use things like eminent domain and prior Supreme Court from the U.S., cases to come against people and say, you're going to give us this land. We want this land. And they've been steady trying, even with the water, just taking the water from people, and the cost of living. Folks, when I was on Maui, I was heartbroken. The indigenous peoples, the locals, they want to grow food, right? That's their heritage. That's what connects them to their island. And they have certain ways of growing food, and it's been handed down generation to generation. But their number one crop needs to be submerged in water, much like rice. And what's happening is they own land, but they divert the streams at the tops of the mountains to the resorts and away from the farms. And they're starving them out, because when I went to buy a couple of tomatoes one night to cook dinner, a 3-pack of tomatoes was $9. Yeah. 3 tomatoes was $9, but you can't grow your own food because you have a water allotment. And if you use too much water, you're fined a lot of money. Yet the resorts water, and I know what people say, they use gray water to water their golf courses. That's fine. I don't care. We won't debate that. But that swimming pool's not gray water. And the showers around the swimming pool, that's not gray water. And the water going to the washers and dryers in every single condo, that's not gray water. When you get off the beach and you're leaving the beach in Maui, there's showers open because, God forbid you have salt on you, right? You can't have sand on you. Can't wait to get back to your condo to rinse off. You got to do it there and then go take a shower when you get back to your condo. The water being wasted through people coming to that island, it's killing it. It's killing it.
I made myself a note here that the stunning thing when the mainstream media started interviewing the survivors, and then they quickly cut this out because we started raising questions. They asked the people what they feared the most. And their number one answer, overwhelmingly, the developers. These people just had their homes burned down. Some of them lost friends and family members. And they're saying their number one fear was the developers taking over their land.
Yes. They'll do it any way they can. And you got people like Peter Morton that claim to be a Christian. And I talked to people about this before. I said, that insults me. I don't get insulted very much. I take the Bible literal. Don't take offense. That's how I live my life. But for this creepy, middle-aged white man, originally from California, to move to Maui and start gobbling up land and to act like he's some kind of gangster, you know what I'm saying? Like he drives around in his white 150 with his Bible on the dashboard, Dave, telling people that God burned the island because you won't give me more water. People like that, they sicken me. He's insane.
That's extreme narcissism, and I would agree with your assessment there.
Yes, it is.
I want to go back to your upcoming trip. With the attempted hush money, and that if you take any money, you could never be a party to a lawsuit. You're not allowed to speak out publicly about this. Okay, with that as a backdrop, you're going to Maui in the 1-year anniversary. What do you hope to accomplish when you're there?
We're hoping to pass out money. I'm going to be honest with you. $162 million was raised through the Maui County Fund, the nonprofit. They took that money and they passed it out to about 40 other nonprofits, ranging from Goodwill to the Red Cross to Catholic Charities, just own millions of dollars. And then those nonprofits decided, you had to know when the applications went out, when were the deadlines. You had to meet their criteria, and then they would either give you used stuff, or they would give you a gift card, or occasionally there might be one or two that would say they would make a mortgage payment for you or something like that. My goal, Dave, is to bring my platform and yours and anybody else that wants to come with us to Maui live as much as possible so that people are seeing it in real time. They know it's not being edited. They know that is what's happening there, to show them the state of what's happening to the indigenous and the locals. The second thing we want to do is allow the king to have a moment to speak to the world. Let him tell the world the truth behind the sovereignty issues that they're having and what their plans are. If they can become a sovereign nation again, how will they stay that? How are they going to keep China from taking them? Like, what are their plans for the people that own land there that aren't Hawaiian? We're going to give him a voice to tell the world what he hopes will happen to his country. The third thing we're going to do is we're going to immerse people in the identity of the indigenous Hawaiians. We're going to let you see what it's really like for the indigenous population on the land that belonged to their forefathers. And then whatever money we collect, and we have collected, we will put in white envelopes. And after we have assured that that is actually a fire victim through proper research, we will divvy it up and we will pass it out to them. No strings attached. If they'll let me record it, give it to them, we will. If they won't, we won't. There will be no paperwork on their end. We will give them money. And what they do with it, hopefully, they'll be able to save their land, pay a mortgage payment, pay their land taxes, whatever they need to do to survive.
No, this is so valuable what you're doing. It's incredible. But how do you anticipate that the cover-up artists that perpetrated this mass murder, how are they going to try to interfere with you? Have you thought about that?
I have. So the first thing that I've noticed that they're doing is we had a lovely lady, beautiful woman, donate 5 tickets on Delta Airlines for myself, my husband, and my daughter. And then my parents, who are in their 80s, said, well, maybe we'll come, just to be there for moral support for you. And she said, I'll cover them too, right? Because these were gifted to her, but it's still very expensive. Yes. She made the tickets. The lady calls her back and, lo and behold, I can't let you have this flight. So we had to redo everything last minute. It was very stressful on Lisa's part, but she stuck it through. She was just, she was like, no, that's wrong. What you did is wrong. You're going to reinstate these tickets. So now the tickets are assured, but we have to stay one more day. What we're praying for now is finding, we put the money aside out of our own pockets, but to find affordable housing, because with Governor Green and all of them changing everything up, they're making it impossible. What I think is going to happen is I'm going to have pushback from government officials when I show up at meetings and I start asking questions. I would not be shocked if they don't pull us over and search us. The last 2 times I was there was always we've had a couple of instances where there were cars that, just gray, nondescript, dark windows following us, and we would notice them and pull off in a public area, and then they would move on. But honestly, I think that's it. I see them using social media against me. They refused to remonetize me a couple of days ago. My 3 months were up. I cleaned my channel up, reapplied. They said no. Within 12 hours, no. I said, okay. So I did the appeal video. They watched it. Within 6 hours of putting the appeal video up, a person said that they went through my video. I have 3,100 videos on my channel. You searched in person 3,100 videos in 6 hours? I doubt it. So they refused to monetize me. And I think that that's how they're trying to burn me out, is not allow me to have any sort of income. They're like, if we just keep refusing to give her money, she's going to go away. And because they can't take my channel down because I'm not getting strikes. I'm not argumentative. I don't cuss. There's no sexual content.
They took my channel down and I had no strikes.
Right. You're right, Dave. I guess shame on me. I shouldn't have said that, but you're right.
No, but the thing is I'm just saying, I don't think anyone is safe. They don't follow their own rules.
No, sir, they do not. And I see them shadow banning us when we're in Maui. So I actually started a backup channel. And what I'll do is on my Facebook page, I'll be leaving the links to the backup channel so that people can go there and watch, as well as on my regular channel, and try to outsmart them so that that information of what's happening gets out. Because people they cannot envision how bad it is there and how desperate the people are. They're desperate at this point.
They want this to be a utopian, sustainable developmental community for the rich and famous.
Yes.
And they murdered people, destroyed property, and covered it up to make it happen. That's my take. I want to make a request of you, if you're able and you agree. If you get to talk to the king, please give him my information. I will give him coverage on this. I'll refer him to my media contacts that I have, and I have some pretty substantial ones.
Yes.
And I can get him on those shows as well, too. He says he wants to speak to the world.
Yes.
Well, we don't for the entire world, but we can sure make a dent in his desire.
I would love that, Dave, and I absolutely will, because he's such a gentle-hearted man. He's so humble. He loves Jesus. He loves the Hawaiian people. But there's so much dissent amongst the Hawaiian people, like who could be king. There's a lot of people claiming to be king. A lot of people saying, well, I'm next in line and this, that, and the other. So it's going to be a little, hard for him. But having a place to be able to speak to people, I absolutely will tell him that he needs to get in contact with you, because he loves the people there. And this has been heartbreaking because they won't even, you would think, Governor Green would actually reach out to this man and say, what do y'all need? But instead, he works with politicians that have been chosen from the Hawaiian people and raised up in the way that they should go. And then they sit on council speaking for the average Hawaiian, and that's not how the actual people feel.
Well, I saw their hearings after the fact and how they treated people who were protesting, how they were handled. And I'm talking about state appointed panels with pretend public input, and I do mean pretend.
Yes.
And how these people were marginalized. And I covered this when I was on YouTube. It's interesting. YouTube didn't take me down for this, though. They took me down because I said the CIA needs to release the Kennedy files and quit covering things up. As mandated by law, they have to. Right. That's what took me down. I'm surprised I look back on it now. They didn't go after me for Maui. But anyway, Samantha, we're flat out of time. How can people follow your good work now? Can you give out some ways to follow you?
Sure. They can follow us at Starkey, Starkey, Farmstead, like homestead with a farm. You can join us. We have a Give, Send, Go fundraiser where we're raising money for the fire victims. And there are links on my Starkey Farmstead channel that you can follow to give money for that. Guys, just row in our boat. You don't have to agree with me on everything with politics or left, right. Put all of that aside, folks. This is not debates about abortion or who should be president. This is about the Hawaiian people. Jump in the boat with Dave and I and help us bring awareness to what's happening there. We can argue politics later.
I don't think I could have said that any better. That was fantastic. Samantha, I want to thank you for joining us and for your work, and stay in touch because we're going to follow what you do. So feel free to reach out to me as
yes, sir.
Situation merits. And thank you so much for coming on the Common Sense Show.
Thank you so much. God bless you, Dave.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's see. Mackenzie said, get in touch with Cohen at Riverside Homestead. I talk to him almost every day, love. I'm going to tell you guys what. God has surrounded me with some fabulous influencers and movers and shakers. I have been on what's the name of those? The man with the sons out of Texas, the Texas Boys. Been on their podcast. I've been on Dave Hodges's. I work with Cohen from Riverside Homestead. He's been kind of helping me along with stuff. But folks, there you go. There you heard it. Look, we don't have to be best friends. And nope, we don't have to agree on any other topic than the Hawaiian people need our help. So please dig deep, folks. See what you can do to help us raise money for the fire victims. I've got these amazing bags that Susie Bubbles not only created, but donated, along with some hats that I will be sending out to anybody that donates. Look, I said $250. Let's drop it down to $150. $150 or more up until Monday. You can make sure I have your email address so I can reach out to you to get your address to mail you this stuff. And that money goes to the fire victims. Doesn't go to me. So I love you guys. I've been on here a long time. I've got a lot to do today. Please like, comment, and subscribe and share this video. Leslie, thank you very much for moderating. Goodbye, guys.